Hi guys, and I hope it has been an amazing journey since the beginning of the course. I hope also you learned a lot and you are still learning more. In this lecture, what we want to do is to explore a bit the stroke for shape. Shapes have a very special stroke in After Effects, which is totally different from the stroke for characters, or text. So let's draw here, for example, an ellipse. An ellipse will do. I will click in the middle, Control Shift, and make a perfect circle. Now, after I do the circle, you notice that the anchor point is somehow not in the middle of the circle because this is the layer. What I can do is to press Control, Alternate, and Home to get the anchor point in the middle of the circle and in the middle of the layer, but not in the middle of the composition, please. Cool. So now we have a circle. If you come to ellipse, that's the content, we found here that we have a stroke. Now this stroke is set for 15 and we don't have any fill. Fine. Let's drill down the stroke and we notice we have color. We can keyframe the color. Let's start from there. I will keyframe in this color and then move here and change the color to blue, for example. Now also move again and change the color to another thing. Let's say this red. Let's play our animation now. This is not a hold keyframe, so it's not going to jump colors. It's going to go to the next color using the palette, and it's very cool. So now you can animate the color of the stroke, and you have a lot of options here, and you can have it like a disco light, going very bright and very dull. Later on we will learn how to use blur and how to use other effects that will make the stroke looking really fantastic. Let's also now turn down the stroke and see what's happening. You notice here now I have a color scheme that I can really use with my keyframes. I can come here also, put another keyframe and so on to change colors. If you put a keyframe in between here and you change the color to, let's say, this color, you notice you are adding more. Let's make it more, obvious. Let's go for green. Yes. Very bright. Here you are, you're moving colors and you can change the way you want. If you play it, that will be very nice. Cool. Now you know about the color. I will put the timeline indicator in the beginning and remove the keyframes on the color. Opacity, but this is the opacity of the stroke, which is pretty nice because if you had a fill, let's say we have this fill white, you are only working on the opacity of the stroke and not the opacity of the whole layer. So you notice you can remove and put the opacity of the stroke itself, which is very interesting. Let's remove the fill again and just go back to stroke width. Now you notice I have here a keyframe. I will keyframe here, put it at 0, for example, come after a few frames and make it pretty big. Then I come back at 1 second, for example, make it 0 again. Now notice the effect. So if you combine this with the color effect, let's keyframe the color here, move another keyframe, change the color to bright blue, move another keyframe and change the color. In fact, it's not necessary, but we will change it here to this color. Here you are, notice what's happening. It is extremely beautiful what is happening here. You can create some fantastic animations. Let's make it very slow. Press alternate and bring it to 3 seconds. Here you are, you notice what's happening when it's glowing in and out. Also the preset glow will help a lot here that we'll be using later on. So these are cool animations. We are going to use them, so please keep them in mind. This is just an introduction. There are a lot of tricks that you can play here. Slowly I will introduce all of them during the course. Then you have here line cap and line join. We will work with this as soon as we investigate the dashes. So what I will do, I will just come over here and remove the stroke width, leave the stroke width to 15. Okay, so we have only one. Fine. I will come to dashes. Notice nothing happened here for dashes when I twirl it down. I will use the plus and give me here 10. 10 meaning the dash is 10 and between the dashes it's also 10. If I take it up, you will notice now the space in between the dashes is increasing and the dashes are you know, it's the same size as the space, 36. Let's put them at 35. Let's go back to line cap. This is butt cap, you know, it's just cut like this. If I do it round cap, they will become round. And of course, the spacing now in between is a bit more because you have the rounding that's eating from the space. You can increase the dashes size. Now, another plus will give me gap, and that's very interesting. So if I take the gap and increase it, it will give me more gaps in between the dashed lines now. You notice what's happening. If I take the dashes to 0, it will become just only the roundness will be there. So it's only round. So if I take it to 0, I return it to butt cap, nothing will appear. So if I put it to round, only the roundness of each line or its dash will appear. You can take it to 1 and you have something bigger and so on. I'll keep it to 0. So this is the gap, and I can increase and decrease the gap. If you look at our circle 100%, let's make it bigger and come here. If I increase the number of gaps, the number of dots will decrease or increase the way you want. That's cool. Now, also this is keyframeable. We will do some animation with. The offset, if you just turn it around, it will offset it. If you look carefully, you will notice more is coming and more is going. This is the offset, what's happening. So a nice animation that you can do here is come to the stroke, for example, keyframe it at 0, and then keyframe it at 15 or 20. Let's take 15 for now. And then, of course, come in the beginning, keyframe the offset at 0, whatever you want. Go to the end and make the offset, for example, 1200. It's going to be speedy, but it's okay. So you notice how it's going to open the keyframes. That's very beautiful. Now we will do that, but we want to add something else. So we are going to take our construction and drop it here. And maybe we will use this logo. So what I have to do is to create a mask, because I have several options here. And this mask, we take it down, make it smaller. You notice how I'm playing with it. This is using the modifiers keys. Fine. And after that, I press Control, Alternate, and Home to bring the anchor point just in the middle of this layer. Cool. Now we have two layers. We'll select both of them, and we are going to align them center vertically and horizontally. Now this is my shape layer. After some time, of course, I will have the other layer coming in. So I will put the construction here, open the scale, scale it at 0. And then when the circle is opening, for example, is opening up to here, before it starts rotating, I will try to make this one, you know, just inside the circle. Let's run our animation and see what we have achieved. That looks beautiful, by the way. And you are very simply. Another thing that I will add here is the rotation. I press Shift R to get the rotation for the circle. Come in the beginning here and put the rotation at 0. That's okay. Come back here, move a bit more and put the rotation at 1. Okay, this is our small tricks, but they make your animation a bit nicer. Okay, the rotation is too much, but it's okay. Fine, let's look at it. Now you see, instead of putting a simple circle, you just put the dots. The dots are growing very nicely and coming up, and the logo is rotating. So this is one way to use the stroke and to animate the stroke. We animated the colors, the opacity of the stroke, the stroke width itself, and we played with the round cap and butt cap and stories like this. And you will have the offset to rotate it 100%. Of course, you could have used the rotation. I prefer to use the offset because it's all inclusive of the layer. So not the layer, transformation here. Because the layer transformation, I might use them for something else, use parenting or use the null object to do something else. So it's much better to start rotating the dots or the dashes with the offset than to rotate them with the layer itself, or even rotate them with the transform of the shape layer here. We have transform ellipse. See you in the next lecture with the more information. See you in the next lecture for more techniques about how to animate, and then we will move on to do great projects and great animations. Thank you for listening.